I honestly believe that leadership presence is the way forward, and it starts with who you are, not what tactics do I need to deploy. Because when change in your environments is constant and resilience is critical, being exhausted through those isn't going to be the way forward.
Welcome to the Style and Strategy Podcast, where personal brand meets leadership and style. I'm Sonia, a personal brand and style coach who's been exactly where you are, juggling career and business success, personal growth, and finding a style that truly fits. After decades in corporate leadership, I've learned that showing up isn't just about what you do. It's about how you align who you are and how the world sees you. This season, I'm bringing you practical strategies, bold insights, and honest conversations to help you amplify your presence, unlock your next level, and lead with clarity and confidence. Let's dive in.
Executive presence, as we know it, is not working. Not because present doesn't matter, but because the version we've been taught, the one that says, project authority, dominate the room, wear the power suit, is absolutely exhausting. And it suppresses innovation. In 2026 and beyond, the organizations that are actually outperforming their peers aren't led by the ones with people with executive presence. They're led by the people with leadership presence. And the difference is everything. And I'm here for it. If you've been told to work on your executive presence, you've probably been told to project confidence, command the room, look the part. That model was built for, I guess you could call it, the command and control hierarchies. I've been there, I have worked through those, and I've also worked through what I would describe as leadership presence instead. And in 2026, it is actively costing you innovation, talent, and trust. Today, I'm going to really walk you through what I'm seeing as this shift from executive presence to leadership presence. What's broken about the old model and where going forward requires something different. And why leadership presence is the way forward and what is it exactly? So why does this even matter? If you're a woman navigating leadership in a world dominated by change, the old rules, they weren't written for us. And they're no longer working really for anyone. It's taken me a little while to write this episode. It's a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a really, really long time. Those of you who've been around for a while, you can see that I differentiate a little bit. There's always been something about that word, executive presence, that bothered me. So executive presence has really been the gold standard for decades, right? But honestly, I feel like it was built for a different era and it's no longer serving us. We've talked about the 2026 is the year of the fire horse. And, we just went through the year of the snake and it's about shedding and moving forward and things are going to be different. In human design, we talk about that 2026 is the beginning of this sort of new era. We're preparing for 2027, which is actually going to be this shift in paradigm. And this all plays into what I'm talking about. So let's just go back a bit and let me go through what traditionally executive presence teaches. So traditionally, it's about projecting authority, dominating the room with your voice, staying calm in crisis, showing no emotion, looking the part, being polished and professional in a power suit, commanding respect through formality. There was a framework developed for this. So Sylvia Ann Hewlett's research identified the 3 pillars of Gravitas, which was about 67% your ability to project authority. Communication made up about 28%, so confident speaking, and appearance was about 5%, and it was kind of talked about like polished presentation. And for a long time, all of this made sense. command and control hierarchies, if your job was to direct people and maintain order. That projection worked. But this is what I see as the problem. That model asks you to really perform a version of yourself or project confidence even when you're uncertain. Hide the emotion when you're navigating complexity. Look the part even when it doesn't feel like you. The thing is, you can't sustain performance. It's exhausting. It's like being an actor in a movie and having to hold that character, not just for that movie, but for your entire career. So if that is the default, you're not just exhausting yourself, you're actively suppressing innovation and potentially losing your best people. Research shows that when women face what's called a double bind, we're expected to exhibit both stereotypical feminine traits, warmth, empathy, and then on the flip side, assertiveness and ambition. You start to lean in to the assertiveness, and then you're viewed as, oh, she's a bit abrasive. You then prioritize warmth and you're dismissed as weak. So that old executive presence model doesn't account for this. It asks us to fit a mold that may never have been designed for us. The traditional programs out there are still teaching this. And let me be very clear. I'm not saying the skills don't matter. Of course, communication matters. I've done a whole podcast on this. Persuasion matters. Influence matters. Networking matters. Those are critically important. But the teachings I'm seeing are only focused on those elements. So informal influence, persuasive communication, networking strategies, visual articulation. But here's what I'm seeing is missing. If you're learning persuasion techniques without understanding how you're naturally designed to influence, is that not just a performance or an act? If you're building communication skills without understanding of how you internally identify, are you projecting a version of yourself instead of being yourself? I honestly believe that leadership presence is the way forward, and it starts with who you are, not what tactics do I need to deploy? Because when change in your environments is constant and resilience is critical, being exhausted through those isn't going to be the way forward. It's really hard to lead through disruption if you're running on empty. Trust me, I've been there. And you can't build trust if you're performing or acting a version of you that isn't real. Let me know, have you been there? And you can't sustain high performance if every day requires you to be someone that you're not. And I think many of us are starting to really push back on that. So if executive presence is failing us, what is the alternative? Before I get into what leadership presence is in my mind, I want you to really understand why this shift is happening. Because it's not just a one-off thing that we're seeing here. There's a response to the environment we're actually leading in. Oh my goodness. You can't wake up without hearing some new development saying we need to move forward, we need to get ahead of the game. It is everywhere. We are living and breathing it. And even me talking about it, I feel tired. Because there is so much of it and the pace of it is relentless. I remember a conversation that I had with a leader in Google who had said, it's really exciting times, but my teams are working harder than ever just to keep pace. So as AI starts to come into the picture more, our human skills really intensified. Critical thinking, empathy, emotional regulation. These are what can't be automated. I have no doubt that, there'll be tech firms and AI that will try, but I'm hoping humanity will keep that part human. So your value as you as an individual isn't about really projecting that authority anymore. It's navigating that complexity that AI can't solve right now. Number 2, what else is happening? Hybrid work requires trust and not control. And that was really demonstrated when we hit COVID. Obviously now, many years on, a lot more firms are bringing people back into the office to create and reconnect that connection. And that command and control, even if you are working hybrid a couple of days a week, command and control on a distributed team doesn't work. Trust is actually built through connection and psychological safety. That is the new competitive advantage. And number 3 is that change is constant. Personally and professionally, right? And resilience and having resilience is going to be absolutely critical. We're not leading in stability anymore. We're leading through constant disruption. Every day there is a new change that's come through. There's a pivot in what you were doing. There's something that needs to be addressed. And here's what the research tells us, that leaders who maintain an internal steady state, who can stay grounded through chaos, actually build the most trust. So if you're running on empty, your team feels it, even if you're saying all the right things. I'm going to call it the empathy dividend, and it's real. Let me give you some numbers I've found on this. Leaders with high emotional intelligence will outperform earning goals by 20%. This isn't soft skills, right? This is now profitability. So in 2026, the leaders who are outperforming their peers aren't the ones with the most polished executive presence. They're the ones who've made that shift to leadership presence. So I know you're saying, okay, what is the difference? So my perspective on leadership presence isn't one thing. It's this dynamic interplay of 3 components. I like to call it the visibility equation, and you may have heard me talk about it before. Leadership presence equals presence plus positioning plus perception. Write it down or just remember it, because even if one of these 3 is off, something will feel wrong, even if you can't name it.
So stay tuned for part 2 of this episode, which will drop next week. Thank you for tuning into Style and Strategy. I hope today's episode gave you a spark of clarity, a boost of confidence, or a new way to approach your personal brand and style. If you found it valuable, share it with someone or leave me a review, or drop me a note and let me know what resonated most for you. Remember, every small shift brings you closer to your next level. Until next time, keep leading with clarity, confidence, and of course, your own unmistakable style.